What's happening, guys? Welcome back to Ben Bateman Talking Movies, whatever we're going to call this station, this channel. We're just here to talk about movies, awesome ones at that, and we are reviewing the entire Marvel Cinematic Universe, one film at a time, just for funsies, just going back to watch them all. Did Iron Man last week. Right now we're bringing in number 2, The Incredible Hulk, 2008's film, directed by Louis Leterrier. Louis Leterrier, for those who don't really know about him, he's one of these unspectacular directors who's kind of done a bunch of movies that you've heard of or seen. So his debut film, The Transporter, action classic, not like a great movie, not a movie I like a lot, but a movie people like a lot. He did Now You See Me, which had a sequel that came out that people, they like that movie okay. It's one of those under the radar hits. The Brothers Grimsby, apparently a hilarious movie, but I never watched it. Most of us didn't. It didn't make any money. His movies don't really make money is the strange part. And this film, it kind of embodies all of the strange, sort of off the radar, under the radar, slightly underrated qualities that all his movies have, except it just happens to exist as the second film in the MCU. Now, this film is the black sheep of the MCU. Everybody kind of knows that. Edward Norton was recast with Mark Ruffalo. He became the new Hulk. None of these characters, aside from William Hurt, who I think shows back up in Civil War, really ever show up again. And it's never more evident how out of place this film feels in the MCU until Robert Downey Jr. shows up in the bar at the end of the film, wearing his fancy suit, and they have a little end credit sequence that is supposed to kick us off to get into the next film, which is Thor, and then ultimately the first Avenger, Captain America. When Tony Stark shows up at the end, it feels like, oh yeah, there's an Avenger. There's a part of that universe that they worked so hard to coordinate and control and create, that's the challenge, right? That was the hard part. Well, they did that, but this film doesn't get to capitalize on any of the nostalgia that we now feel when we go back and we watch all these actors. So Liv Tyler, she never shows up again. They recast Edward Norton. As I said, William Hurt shows up in one movie for like a scene or something like that. It just isn't a movie that feels connected. It feels like it didn't ever really get made, and it was so close to the beginning. You look back at 2008, some people don't even remember this film came out after Iron Man. Some people think this came out before Iron Man. This movie truly has gone under the radar. People forget about it. Now, on the flip side, this movie's pretty good. Edward Norton's a really good Bruce Banner. It's an interesting film. CGI has definitely improved in the last 10 years, while Iron Man 1 has similar problems, right, where it's an older film utilizing CGI 10 years ago. Creating iron suits that are flying through the air is a little easier than creating big, veiny, green, villainous monster things, whether you're talking the Hulk or the Abomination. Tim Roth, fantastic. Really enjoyable in this movie. Tim Roth, always solid. Doesn't have a tremendous amount of range, I've found. I mean, I think he's a very good actor, but he's not that guy that every time he shows up in something he disappears, but he's really cool in this movie. He's a great villain. You believe how brash he is, how much he wants to kick Bruce Banner's ass. It's awesome. Liv Tyler's not very good in this movie. She's just not. I've heard people say that this film feels very small scale compared to the larger idea that a lot of Marvel films have, and I think that's true. Iron Man in some ways feels the same way, but it succeeds because it does create a larger world. It suggests the larger world that eventually ends up becoming significant. Overall, guys, I really think the biggest problem with this film is that they recast Edward Norton. I think if they hadn't recast Ed Norton, this film would have lived on and would really be looked at as perhaps there was going to be a sequel kind of a deal. But if you think about it, it's the only one of the original characters in the Avengers. Iron Man's had 3 films. Captain America has had 3 films. Thor has had 3 films. The Hulk's just had the one. They never gave Ruffalo his own movie. You wonder why. And I think it's just because there's a disconnect with the character, with Ang Lee's Hulk starring Eric Bana, and then just 5 years later, you have this Hulk film starring Edward Norton, and then just a few years later, in 2012, 4 years later, you have Hulk show up again as another actor. So I just think that there's a real, people struggle to recognize that character. Maybe now that Ragnarok was successful, we'll get Hulk 2. That wouldn't surprise me. But those are my thoughts on this film. Overall, significantly worse than Iron Man. Nowhere near as bad as people make this film out to be. I enjoyed it. I had fun watching it. Didn't keep me engaged in the same way that the good Marvel films do. Those are my thoughts. Guys, favorite the station, like, subscribe, leave your comments below. I really appreciate you guys watching these videos. For now, I'm just kind of doing these for fun. I won't be promoting them too much, but if you are finding this, if you're watching it, I'm going to go through all 17, and you'll get consistent content on this channel from me. So thanks for watching. I'm Ben Bateman. You can find me at Ben Bateman Media, Twitter, Instagram, social media, what have you. I apologize for the audio. I'm working on it. Thanks for stopping by, guys. We'll see you soon.